And welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, a special brew coming to you minutes after Don Sweeney finished his press conference on Friday, March 7th, post the NHL trade deadline, a day that will go down in the history of the Boston Bruins as one of the most interesting, one of the most potentially earth-shattering days for this franchise. What other adjectives, Razor, would you use for this one?
Surprising,
Okay.
I think, to have all three of those guys go. Not surprising that there wasn't deals, but when the Coyle one came down, it was okay. That's it. That makes sense. And but then bingo, bango.
Seismic shift type of day. We're going to get into all of it, but nothing bigger than the captain, Brad Marchand, being traded late in the day to the Florida Panthers. Before we get to that, we are going to recognize all of our sponsors that help make Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor possible. We're going to do them all at the top here as we're going to get into everything that happened, not just today, but in the days leading up to it as well. A lot to cover. As always, Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, proudly presented in pod by Fazenda Coffee. Yes, even Razor's yawning already.
I did.
Given how long we were just on TV for, folks. If you just saw it on our YouTube, you saw it. Visit FazendaCoffee.com/morningbrew. Check out all of the products that Fazenda Coffee has, from the dark roast to the light roast, whole bean to ground. They'll do it all for you. No better coffee roaster in Boston. FazendaCoffee.com. Thank you for being our lead in pod sponsor. Also, Sunset Lake CBD. SunsetLakeCBD.com is the place you want to go if you want to mellow out or you got some aches and pains. Or
I'm going to be rubbing that all over my head and my back. My back is so bad right now, folks. The CBD is going to get smoked into my back big time.
Sunset Lake CBD, they grow, harvest, and ship all of its craft CBD products directly from its farm in northern Vermont straight to your door. Don't get in line. Skip the line and find your relief and relaxation at Sunset Lake CBD. Boy, I wish I had some right here, right now. I will be using some later. So they've got everything you could want. Products after a tough day at work, if you want to just relax, all that stuff. SunsetLakeCBD.com, the place to go. Folks, I know people have been ordering already from there. We love it. Keep using the code BRU, Brew20, for 20% off your entire order. SunsetLakeCBD.com. Don't forget, your order's over $75. Sunset Lake CBD can ship it to you for free. But make sure to check out all of their products. Relaxation, sleep, sore muscles, stuff like that. You can use it, and you will love it. Thank you to Sunset Lake CBD. Thank you as well, Graciano Construction. Check out GracianoConstruction.com. Doug Graciano and his crew, they make doing home projects less stressful and almost enjoyable. GracianoConstruction.com, the place to go. Or call 508-330-7589. And RTN Realty, the place. If you're looking to buy, sell, or lease your place in Mass, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire, check out RTNRealty.com for all your real estate needs. Reach Chris Gentile at cgentile@RTNRealty.com or call him at 617-835-0845 for a no-pressure consultation. The spring rental season is upon us. Chris and his staff have got you covered. Check out RTNRealty.com and tell them that you heard about it on Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. And lastly, Sparks Hockey, the Spark Sharpener. Check out SparksHockey.com. Use the code BREW50 to check out all of the different things that Sparks Hockey has. Thank you to Sparks Hockey as well. All right. Thanks to all of our sponsors. We appreciate them. Want to get it done, get them in now.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Holy smokes.
Yep.
What happened today for the Boston Bruins, Razor?
Well, what happened was they got rid of three leaders, three guys that were synonymous with this team, with three guys who led them to almost the Stanley Cup in 2019, who have been a huge part of seasons like that, record-breaking seasons just a couple of years ago, and just core pieces of this group that you thought were going to be Bruins for a little bit longer. And of course, the big one's Brad, but Brando and also Charlie. I mean, to have all three of those guys leave your organization in one day is is a huge change. You used the word seismic. It really is seismic, and it will lead to a lot of questions going forward. And I'm shocked. Everyone who listens to us, I didn't think Brad was going anywhere. I thought that he was here for life. I thought that would be the plan on both sides, and of course, with Brando and Charlie, I could have seen one of them going. Like, again, when Charlie got dealt first, I was like, oh, okay, that's their deal. They kind of got pushed into this situation because of how bad they've played the last 9 days. They really had to do something today, the last 9 games. But to go this way is shocking.
We heard the names of Carlo out there. You heard the name of Charlie Coyle out there. We knew the players with term could get traded. We were okay with it. I didn't think that both would get traded today. I thought one of the two would.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, they would do some other stuff. No question about it. Those are huge deals, those big deals. But the biggest of the big is Brad Marchand. He goes to the Florida Panthers, and it's a conditional 2027 second-round pick in return. Let me read what they have on the TSN trade tracker. It becomes a 2018 first-round pick if Florida wins 2 rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, and Marchand plays 50% of the team's playoff games. Boston is also retaining 50% of Marchand's salary. That doesn't seem like as much as we thought he would get back. He being the Bruins, Don Sweeney, and their management, given how much the prices were elevated for other players. So I will make a statement and ask you that.
Yep.
How much did the injury play into it? The uncertainty if he could play, he being Marchand, in the playoffs, and maybe how this seemed to happen. Emphasis on seemed here, folks. We're assuming it happened very late in the day. So they had to figure something out here, because when it became clear that they weren't going to re-sign him, there was a gap in the term per Don Sweeney after the presser. So how much did all that play into this? Because I think everybody else, self-included, thought the return would be bigger.
I thought it, and not only would it be bigger, but the Bruins wouldn't do it unless they got a huge haul.
Right.
And that was a big reason why I didn't think he was going to get dealt, because it was going to be kind of a twofold thing where it would be hard to do it, to find a team where Brad wanted to go. I never thought they would ever trade him to the Florida Panthers, and also get the return that they wanted back. And in both of these cases, again, it's Florida, and it's kind of not for a lot. He talked about, and Don in the press conference, where, again, we've been doing this all day, so you're trying to get words and you're trying to hear Don. He talked about the injury, making things a little bit more difficult. So when he says that, I think, okay, maybe the injury and the way it's actually structured, if it is conditional on the fact that they win 2 rounds and he plays playoff games, maybe the injury is worse than we think. Maybe he is unsure of if he's going to be back and ready in 5 weeks.
Are you pissed? Are you ticked off that he got traded to Florida? Are you surprised? Are you shocked? Are you upset? Are you what adjective are you? Because I am thoroughly surprised. But I say that, and then I will say maybe the day of the whole rivalry thing is kind of dead, where you don't really care just as long as you get something back.
And my other thought to that too is, and Don kind of mentioned it, was this might be where Brad wanted to go. This might be one of the only places Brad wanted to go. He did not. It seems like he didn't want to go west. Didn't want to be away from everybody. Of course, he wants to go somewhere where he's going to win. So maybe on top of all of that, the Bruins did him a solid by taking a little less and not going out and get the biggest haul. He did have a no movement clause that
like 8 teams, right?
That was 8 teams. So again, that does restrict a lot you can do if a couple of the teams that were willing to give a lot are on that list. If at the end of the day they did Brad a solid more than thinking about giving the Florida Panthers a solid. It's crazy. I'm still forming thoughts too, right? Like, we're still trying to, because it is so wild. I wasn't, there's no part of me that was prepared for that.
I didn't think the Bruins would make a deal with Toronto for Brad Marchand. I said it on Toronto radio. I thought no freaking way they ever would. The next team I thought would have been the Florida Panthers.
Agreed.
Okay. But I'm with you that because the injury might be more significant than we all, well, not that we know, that we think that
anyone was willing to gamble on.
Yes, right. That teams maybe just were all saying, we can't take a chance giving you a guaranteed first-round pick because if he can't play, it doesn't help us. For Florida, they're in a win-now mode. And to them, they've got so many players locked up. They're like, we'll give you a 27 or 28 draft pick. It doesn't matter to us. Just like Dallas is doing with their players. It's to them, it's like, we get it, but this is the most we can offer for guarantee, and then this would be the conditional term.
And the other thing too, right, is the Bruins are also thinking that they don't need that. They're going to be able to flip that pick in a couple of years because they're going to have, now they have their own. They're going to be really good at that time. We're going to reap. That's what Don's thinking forward, is that we want to be able to use this pick for leverage later down the line. Now, that I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's probably part of the thinking.
Do you understand, if you look at social media, if that is our bellwether, which it is nowadays, right?
Yep.
That there's a lot of people that are unhappy.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It hurts. Your captain's gone. I mean, now he was short-term captain, but a long-term Bruin that elevated his game from fourth liner with a potential asterisk next to him to probably a third liner we thought is upside, to all of a sudden a top-tier player and a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. We've seen other guys go. The one that comes up regularly is Ray Bourque. This is so different than the Ray Bourque situation. And this is so different. And we said this during our trade deadline show on Nesson for Joe Thornton when you were around. You said this falls in the middle. You're right. It's just different than those. I think that's why you were happy for Ray for the most part. I mean, you're sad to see him go, but you knew the process. You understand the opportunity for him. This seemed like, oh no. But now, I also saw, by the way, there were some people that said, on social media, like, listen, once they decided this is not a retool anymore. I don't see this as a retool. I mean, if they retool for next year, we're seeing a bunch more moves, Razor, a bunch more moves. So I think they figured if they were going to do this, take this path, which was not, at least in my eyes, one of the two that Cam Neely talked about a month ago. I think that, some people say, hey, listen, you made all these other moves. You have to get something back for Brad if you couldn't re-sign him.
Yeah, but I think that narrative was a lot more than a second round pick that would become a first.
I'm with
28.
you. Yeah.
Again, that's the beauty of these trade deadlines is market dictates, and what you think that guys are worth, it's always different. It's just always different. It does lend itself to that idea that Brad, again, I think there's some people upset, and I have this in my head a little bit, and Dale brought it up, like him coming, being injured, not having closure. At least it wouldn't, to some people, I think the closure would be better off keeping him here, working all summer to try and figure out a deal, rather than the second round pick that is there. And could they have figured out, if they kept them, could they have figured out how to get a deal done in May, in June, and in June 30th, get one done? I suppose that's still possible, but of course, as soon as anybody goes out the door, it feels
very
like
hard
that's
to get
it. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, I said on the radio whatever day it was, Wednesday, that if it's happening, it's going to be a heavy return.
Yep.
I was wrong.
No, I know. I
was wrong. So, but the Bruins felt they had to do it.
Yep.
And now, I mean, this goes down again. I'll use the word seismic as a seismic moment for this organization, because they don't have an obvious next captain on the team, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You agree? Okay. They have guys.
They have two guys.
They have two guys right now,
and I won't be surprised if either one of them get it or don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, could you see them going without a captain for a while? And I know they're not doing one this year. They said that they're not going to wear a seat. I mean, maybe you take even next season and you just develop, or you have co-captains, or of course, the big caveat is you bring somebody else in, because there's a lot of stuff that there's going to be done.
Oh no, this what they just did today makes Morning Brew extremely interesting in June, July. It does, because they have so much more to do.
Yeah,
they
there's
have
no more tweaking. This is still big construction. This is Graciano construction right
this
here.
is Graciano construction, redo right down. Again, you have, and I understand what he means by Don saying it's not a full rebuild, because you have Pasta, you have Hampus, you have Charlie McAvoy, and you have Jeremy Swayman. You have those four pieces, but you need 4-6 wingers next season.
Right.
You need to figure out who your centermen are. You need a defenseman on your, you need 7 players now, and they're going to be 7 new players over the summer. You need to spend $27 million over the summer.
Right. They're going to, by the way, there's a bunch of trades coming. The free agent signings and trades still.
Yeah. No, there's a lot going on here now. And yes, I do. It's not a Buffalo Sabres down to nothing, because you have the guys that we just talked about. And when you have those 5 guys, you're never really fully rebuilding, but it's much more than a retool too.
I hope we get to hear from Brad Marchand soon. I'm assuming he is here rehabbing right now. Does he wait in town for Tuesday's game and then go back down with the Florida Panthers? Does he stay here? I'm assuming he goes to Florida and he starts rehabbing there. I'm assuming. I don't know if he has to. We don't know where he's at in his recovery right now. So that's kind of when I say a moot point, we don't need to get into that. But I hope we get to hear from him soon.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure everybody involved, the league, the teams, everybody knows that's necessary for the league. Now, the Florida Panthers are his right holders now. They're the ones in charge of that. They want to control that. So it's not like Brad's going to have an impromptu press conference out on his front porch over in Newton. Like, he's got to do whatever Florida wants him to do wherever it is, and that's another big part of this story. I mean, there's so much unknown right now, and the fact that it came down this way, right? Like, does it make you dislike the Florida Panthers more? And I know you're a national analyst as well, in addition to a Bruins guy, but you know what I mean. No.
As a fan, does it make you dislike them that much more, or do people now end up having small soft spots for them because like them now. 63's there?
Yeah, you kind of more you
rooting interest,
more of a rooting interest now. Yeah, if it's the Panthers versus Toronto,
well, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's Panthers now. It's Panthers more than it was before. I think you want to see Brad tear Toronto apart again, in a way, which is wild.
I mean, the fact that, and I know this was all over social media,
it's going to be the first round matchup,
but
somehow,
the fact that Tkachuk, Bennett, and Marchand are all on the same team.
No, they are going to be absolutely hellions.
Referees are going to absolutely hate that team.
Oh, Brad, and Brad's gonna, Brad's gonna work them up to a point of frenzy on a daily basis. Come play, it's gonna be must watch.
Those guys all listened to Brad during Four Nations. Those guys being the Bennetts and the Reinhardts, and he was typical Brad in the locker room, vocal and charismatic, and embraced.
They love him.
They loved him. Right.
Yep.
I'm sad. I am.
No,
I have never hid my. Ever since he really changed his ways, my affinity towards him and how he is as a person. Folks, if you get the chance to talk to him away from the camera, the mic, etc., he's magnificent. He recognized he did some things over the years that weren't so magnificent, but he's changed. And as we said during our trade deadline show, it's since that time where he is reformed, I guess would be the word, right?
Yep.
He's not perfect, and you don't want him to be perfect. But
no, that's what makes him great.
He became a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
because of that.
Yeah.
Okay. First trade of the day, though, the one that got everybody going was Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle, center, with a year left at over $5 million and a 5th-round pick, goes to the Colorado Avalanche for Casey Mittelstadt, Will Zellers, and a 2025 second-round pick. Didn't surprise us as much because we had heard names like Coyle and Carlo that could go. You get more back.
Yes.
What do you think of the return of Casey Mittelstadt, Will Zellers, and a second-round pick? Understandably, I mean, we don't have limited knowledge on Will Zellers, and the 2025 pick is just a second-round pick, but the Bruins have more draft assets than they've had in a long time.
Well, and it checks the roster player, prospect, draft pick. That they check the boxes, and exactly what you would expect for a guy like Charlie Coyle for a team like Colorado, who can put him in the lineup tomorrow. He's the third line center. He's responsible. He's exactly what they're going to need to get through the Western Conference in the first round, which probably is the Dallas Stars.
I mean, that's just a joke that it's going to be Dallas.
It is.
Get
ridiculous.
to the 1 through 8.
It is.
Please
Uncle 1 through 8. And then, so no, I love that pull. Again, if you're going this route, Charlie Coyle was going to get you more than everybody else. He did get you more than everybody else.
Well,
Carlo's close.
We'll
Carlo's close. Carlo's close. 100%. But the wild card in this is Casey Middlestat, and can he become the player that Don Sweeney talked about in his press conference today? Can he be that? And what does he look like in a Bruins jersey? That has some asterisks on it. So let's see what it becomes.
They envision him, they hope, as a second center.
Yes.
Okay. For now.
That's always been his upside as a player. That's what Colorado wanted him to be.
Right.
And that's what the Bruins wanted him to be.
And Buffalo thought that he'd be there too. Now, the last 2 years, not this year including, previous 2 years, over 55 points in each of those 2 years.
Yep.
Last year was a combined year between Buffalo and as he got traded from Buffalo to Colorado for Bowen Byram. So he's had that. This year, more of a down year. What, 30, forgive me, 4 points, I think, so far?
34 sounds
okay.
right, yeah. 11, 23. 11 goals, 23 assists.
Okay, had a great start to the year.
Yep.
Really impressed everybody in Colorado. They thought that they had found their guy behind McKinnon, and then it has been a drop-off the second half. Maybe doesn't fit well into that style. Colorado's different, so now the Bruins get an opportunity. I couldn't agree with you more about Coyle going in there as the 3 slot because Brock Nelson's going to go in as the 2 slot. What centers they have in Colorado right now, at least on paper, man. They're freaking unbelievable. Coyle can play his game, his style, not have to worry about keeping up pace with the other top 5 guys or so there. And in many ways, this reminds me almost carbon copy of Coyle coming to Boston in 2019, anchoring the third line.
That's exactly what it is for me. Exactly what it is. And that for Colorado is a great deal. And again, it'll be with Middlestat, the difference from what happened to him going to Colorado and him coming here. And this is a huge opportunity for him. And one he has to capitalize to make this deal work is power play 1. And that's what Don Sweeney alluded to, that he didn't have those opportunities like he did in Buffalo. In Colorado, of course, you're not getting on the power play 1 with those guys.
Nope.
And he's going to have that opportunity here. And they thought it was a sense of weakness. Of course, we all have said that. Can he be a power play guy in this league? That will probably determine whether it turned out to be a good deal or not.
And it also moves Elias Lindholm to the 3 slot.
He's the third line center. Yeah. You're not moving any of those 3 guys to wing. So now Lindholm becomes what the Charlie Coyle or the typical third line center of a good team
for
looks
now.
like.
It appears like
correct.
Middlestat, excellent hands, very creative, good shot,
top 10 pick.
Played at the U.S. program, played at Minnesota for a year. I wouldn't call him a speed demon, but that's the thing. He'll work on his feet, but he's got that creativity and the hand-eye coordination. And you watch some of his great stuff. So he's got a lot of skill. Bruins need some skill. This has to, though, like you said, this has to be taken advantage of by him in his late 20s. He's 27, 28 years old. This is a major moment, I think, in his career.
Yeah, if he wants to be top 6 forward, consider that. Of course, he's got 2 more years on his deal after this one, so there's a little bit of time. But if this is his shot, you can't go to 4 teams.
No, not at that age.
No.
Will Zellers is a player in the USHL, leading. I think he's the 2nd point producer in the league. He's got 40 goals at this time. He's going to North Dakota. Originally a BU commit. A lot of skill, a very good player, I'm told, but I have never seen him play, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
The 2025 second-round pick is just what everybody has been talking about, needed that. The other big trade of the day, anything more on that one you want to get to before I?
No, we crushed it.
All right, Brandon Carlo going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I had a big gulp on this one. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, because and just quickly because I thought when they got Zadorov that they were locked and loaded with their top 4 or top 5, including Lowry, for 4 years. And Carlo is a big piece of that. He has been a huge part of these guys winning games in the playoff time, especially. And that's where I still thought you could. This is kind of where the retool changes a little bit for me, because he would have been a big part of a retool. Like, I would consider him a captain. I would consider him one of those guys.
Part of your leadership group,
1,000%.
So 2 years ago and last year, especially 2 years ago, outstanding.
Yeah.
Last year, I felt had another solid to very good year. A different year this year. With that said, which player on this team besides Pastrnak and Geeky, I guess, which both started slowly this year, has really achieved that level that we're used to? And Carlo at times has struggled, I felt, this season. Still a very important presence for this team, an amazing human being, just like Charlie Coyle. Both of them. And I'm sending out the cliche, but thank you guys. I know you're not watching, but you know, thank you for all they've done. They've been awesome to deal with. Love those guys. Carlo, though, wasn't as, and maybe this is also just an indication or indicative of what the Bruins aren't this year, Razor. You know, less support around him and everything. Wasn't the same. But we saw last week, great penalty kill, stick work, etc. He's going to go in and slide in. I'm assuming that Chris Tanev's going to be okay eventually for this Maple Leaf team. He's going to slide in, and he is now going to be part of their top four. It's going to be a big get for the Toronto Maple Leafs as they battle for the Stanley Cup. They haven't had a lot of success, as we know, in the playoffs recently. They give up a first-round pick, which we don't have the exact pick yet.
Yeah,
that's
we can't find it anywhere.
Can't find that. Is it Toronto's first-round pick? Is it one that they picked up in the trade?
I feel like it must. Now that we're talking through, we haven't talked about that, but it feels like it must be Toronto's because no one said anything. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So if it is, that means it's a late first. Like that means it's 25.
Yeah,
20 at best.
Yeah, I would agree. But we'll wait and see. But Fraser Minten is a very high prospect, highly regarded prospect for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Played this year in the American League. Played 15 games in the NHL. Had a handful of points. I mean, people are very high on him that I connected with, texted with during our show. I'm bullish on this one. I like the return on this one here an awful lot.
This is a big return. This is the Leafs paid up for Brandon Carlo, and rightly so. Again, $4 million guy for the rest of this year, the run that they have, and next year. And you know, an opportunity to continue to go forward with him. So they know all about him. Toronto Maple Leafs didn't sign him or didn't trade for him and give up what they did because they were unsure of what he was like. He shut them down come playoff time. They love him there, and rightly so. And they gave up a lot because Fraser Minten is an NHL hockey player. Of when you talk about prospects and people want to look at, you know, he's a top 10 prospect in the National Hockey League. He's a guy who plays hard, is physical, is gritty, has a little bit of skill in him, has a little bit of pace in him, but just a good old-fashioned hockey player, Western League kid, and should fit in real well with what the Bruins mentality is. So, you know, you take this guy out, you take, you know, these are all what I would call presence guys. They're all front and center when the media needs to speak to somebody. Yeah. You know, when the team needs maybe a proverbial pat on the back or whatever. You know, they're experienced at this. You know, Carlo's going to do great in Toronto. Yeah. He's going to be fine. Charlie Coyle's going to do unbelievable in Colorado. Well, they're going to love him.
There isn't as much media like compared to Boston and compared to Toronto, obviously. But that's something that, you know, the Bruins are going to be, I think, challenged for that. Yes, they've got other guys. You know, Charlie McAvoy can do stuff. David is very good, you know, doing stuff. But this is a different now. We've already talked about leadership a bit, but it's not just leaders that wear a letter on their sweater. It's also throughout the room, guys that can handle take other things. To me, that's one of the biggest things about now. That's why I don't think this is just a retool, because you are resetting a culture of a team now in so many ways, on and off the ice.
Well, there's 4 guys that have been here for more than 2 years. Is that where we're at now?
Well, you
have Lindholm, who's a 2 and a bit,
right?
You've got McAvoy, you've got Pastrnak, Swayman.
Yeah.
Everybody else is under 2 years. Zach is 2 years.
No, is he
Or
3?
is he more? Is
Yeah,
he 3?
I think he's 3.
Okay,
But
so everybody
5
under.
guys.
So 3 and under. 3,
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys. Is the
There's
point?
no connection now. You said
There's
it
no
best.
connection
It's
to
the end of an era.
Yeah.
To the Bergeron, Krejci,
Zdeno.
Rask. I was going to say the biggest of them all, Zdeno, who reset this culture back in 2006.
Yep.
They're going to need somebody, I think, to help come in and help the McAvoys and the Pasternuks help reset this culture. I think that from a presence perspective, that's where I think a lot of the work. Yes, of course, you need talent, no doubt about it, but it's going to be new. They now these guys were following the lead of Brad Marchand and Brandon Carlo and Charlie Coyle. Right now, they become the lead dogs, and lead dogs need support dogs behind them. They need a lot of that.
They do, and Don talked about how that was always the strength of this team, the culture and the leadership, and now that's going to be a big part of building back up here over the next 5 months.
The other trade we're just going to touch on real quick: Justin Brazeau traded to the Minnesota Wild. That happened yesterday, late at night. Right, Marat Hustadinov comes in, a forward, and a 2026 6th-round pick, and Jacob Lauko is part of it. I mean, you weren't going to re-sign Brazeau. I think he fell out of favor of the team the last 6 weeks or so, and was in and out of the lineup. Hustadinov, I hear solid depth player potential, still very young. You know what you're getting back in Lauko. 6th-round pick just adds to the arsenal, just pick management. That's about it. Small, much smaller deal, obviously, but I thought a very hefty return given the scenario.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the Bruins were in a situation where they could take on the Lauko and the Hustadinov's contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in a powerful position there where they could take on 2 contracts, take those guys in, see where they're at with them, try and change that 4th line a little bit on the fly with both of those players. Of course, we know all about Lauko and the energy he brings. There was times lacking energy there on the bottom 6 at certain times. They wanted more of that. And Brazeau was, like you said, falling out of favor. He was never coming back here. And you get a draft pick out of it on top of everything else. So good work there as well. Like you're adding a lot of pieces for one guy going out the door.
So you look at that deal, you look at Carlo, you look at Coyle, and everybody was very happy.
Yeah.
I think very impressed, very, and then the Marchand deal, and that changed some public sentiment. I think, again, you brought up the point about the injury thing there. I think you've just got to see how it plays out. When it's all said and done. I think overall, Don Sweeney, and his staff did a pretty darn good job. I do. Yep. But they are still. The only thing I disagree with them is that I think that they have a lot of work to do, and maybe he's just trying to say, I don't know, maybe he's just trying to soft sell it. But the amount of additions between free agents and trades come draft. The draft, by the way, folks, is June 27th in LA. I still think a lot's going to be done between now and then.
Well, there's like we've talked about how many new players and new faces have been in this lineup, and the fact that there's only 5 players from that record-breaking season a couple of years ago. There's only going to be more. There has to be more.
Yeah.
Like,
what do we think there is? And I'm sorry, I don't have the sheet open in front. We don't have the exact salary cap room just yet. It's going to change too. Oh, by the way, they got Henry Jokiharju. I forgot, from the Buffalo Sabres, who's in the last year, folks, of his deal. It's a $3.1 million contract. He's a defenseman. He's a UFA to be, though, so his money could come off the books. Maybe it's an elongated tryout, so to speak. He's hoping to make it to the Tampa Bay game tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
So they add that, but we're talking upwards of $30 million available, give or take, right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, exactly. And that means a lot. Like that's a lot of work to do. Of course, you have your restricted free agents, but there's geeky and lowride that you're paying out of that. So even if you're going to be looking at on the high end 15 million. free agent money.
Oh, easily. I
Right,
think
like
more
even if you signed all the restricted free agents, you're easily in the 15 to
20,
which is
15.
which is a lot of money, which is and who you're going after, and are you making more deals? To your point, there's a lot of moving pieces, and certainly where they are right this second, they're not ready for next season. So what are next, and what they do with it will be fascinating. And I couldn't agree more on the breakdown of the deals, because I think when you look what Carlo brought you, what Coyle brought you, and then on top of it, Brazeau and Frederick, they nailed prospects, they nailed draft picks, they nailed young players that they wanted to bring in. It's just the Brad one that's really hard to, could Brad have helped those young kids, those young prospects, those draft picks by staying? But obviously there's some kind of business involved in that. That's what we won't know probably for a little while, if ever.
Quickly to go over the draft pick summary that we have right now. 2025, 1 first, 2 second, 1 third, 1 each in the 5th, 6th, 7th. 2026, 2 first rounders, 1 second, 3rd, 4th, and then 1 6th and 7th. 27, 1 first, 2 seconds, and then 1 each, round 4 through 7. So they have, they've got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds coming up. Wouldn't surprise me at all if if there was a player out there they wanted, they took one of the extra picks they have in the first round in 26 and move that for a player, because you can access that and utilize your cap space to bring in players already under contract. There's going to be a team out there, folks, that craps the bed in playoffs and is looking to make moves, or they're up against the cap and they need to move some players, and the Bruins could sweep in and take one of those. So there's a lot of stuff that will happen between now and mid of summer.
They've built options for themselves. They're not like we've heard the last couple of years where they just couldn't do anything, whether it was salary cap or draft capital, whatever it was. They weren't able to make deals and do things full bore. But they can go all in on anything that they truly believe in and have conviction for in June and before the draft.
What a day!
A crazy day.
What a day! I mean, both Razor and I have done trade deadline shows before, not only at Nesson but other places. The frenzy, oh my God, I'm trying to keep it clean here. You know what I mean? Crazy effing stuff going on. And obviously, because we're Bruins people, it impacted us even more. But folks, the entire league was texting us talking about the Bruins and going on. So it was league-wide. It was just crazy. Haven't experienced anything like that before. Have not in my time. I had not. There've been crazy days, the trades and all that stuff. Remember a few years ago, all the signings and the trades we had that one day over the summer. It was nuts. This trade deadline, end of it, what an unbelievable event it became.
No, the Bruins never seem to disappoint in the drama or in the craziness of these things. I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think of a team that was in the middle that sold off this much. Like, there's teams that way down in the bottom that have always given up, but typically they don't have good players to give. Like, they've only got a couple and they hold on to the ones they want. Like, I don't remember a team that was in the middle like this to give up 3 leaders the way that they did.
And in a matter of, let's call it 2 hours, maybe even less than that.
Yeah,
hour and a half.
Yep.
Near the end of a day. Yeah. After making the Trent Frederick trade, which we knew likely happening, and they did pretty well there. We both thought. We talked about that, right? We knew they'd do a little something. We knew that there'd be a deal or two today. By the way, our good buddy Barry Peterson, besides now having all these different names to pronounce, I'm going to tell you right now, the governor predicted that there would be at least 2 or 3 big trades.
Yeah, he did it.
He did. So good job, Barry.
That's it.
Hopefully you're up listening to this. Anything else you want to get to? I know we both want to get home.
What a grind.
I got to get to the rink. You got to get
There's
home.
going to be tons of stuff to touch on here over the next few games that we do, like other ideas, other thoughts. We're going to hear guys talk. I think we'll get a little bit more from that. We'll get an idea of how the team feels after we watch them play, especially against the Tampa Bay team. Like, there's going to be there's going to be a whole lot more to digest, which is hard to imagine at this point.
A major day in the history of the Boston Bruins, especially the recent history of the Boston Bruins, something that we aren't used to seeing. with this organization. Major shakeup, to put it mildly. All right, that's going to wrap up this morning brew with Jaffe and Razor. Thank you to RC for helping put this all together. RC. Thanks, buddy. And Razor, you and I will be back in, I think we're going to, listen, who knows, maybe even back before Tuesday, for sure after Tuesday's game. If something happens between now and then that we want to address quickly, we can do a quick brew and get it out there. But the Boston Bruins, with major transactional impact on this trade deadline day, March 7th, 2025. Mark it down, folks. A big day. And if you're Bruins fans, let's hope that this is a catalyst for good things to come in the future. This is why they made these moves. Let's hope now that they all, or at least most of them, help make it better. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you're enjoying whatever beverage you are drinking while listening. Have a great day.